Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call a meeting to order. Welcome to our December 11th, 2023 regular meeting of Belleville City Council. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on traditional territory of many nations. The municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of our Indigenous peoples. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of the Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We recognize all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for the Indigenous people who first lived and currently live on this land. I will call a meeting to order. I see that Councillor Thompson is not in attendance tonight, and please remain standing for a moment of reflection from City Clerk Matt McDonald.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, I need a motion for the confirmation of minutes of regular council minutes of November 27th, 23, and regular in-camera meeting of minutes of November 27th, 23. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Discussion, all in favor, carried. Deputations, I believe we have Chris Palmer here from the County of Prince Edward Supervisor of Museums and Cultural Services, and Laura Imrie, Curator of the National Air Force Museum of Canada, with a deputation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Laura's not with us today, but she sends her support and letter. So good evening to Mayor and Council and everyone joining us today. My name is Chris Palmer. I'm the Supervisor of Museums and Cultural Services for the County of Prince Edward. We'd like to thank you for providing us this time for the partners on the Arrow Trail to share the project with you and seek your support. I just want to take a brief moment off the top to thank the folks that have gotten us so far on the trail already. In particular, John Brzezinski, who led the Raise the Arrow campaign with OEX Recovery Group, Dr. Richard Main of the Royal Canadian Air Force, the RCAF themselves, 8 Wing, the South Shore Joint Initiative, the County Museums, Base 31, the Regimental Museum, Avion Design Co., and the National Air Force Museum of Canada. The tagline for the Arrow Trail is National Legacy, Local History, and you can see it up on the board there. And it's because of the hard work and dedication of all the regional partners that we'll be able to share the incredible story of the Arrow, the free flight test models, and the Raise the Arrow campaign, all through local connections in celebration of the RCAF's 100th anniversary next year. So with thanks to all the partners involved, I'll just get quickly to our presentation here and provide a little context more on the Arrow Trail itself, how we developed it, where we are, and where we hope to go with your support. So you see that there's some initial branding that we've done for the trail there that gives us an idea of the national legacy of the Arrow and the local history that we're going to connect it to. The Avro Canada CF-105 Arrow was a supersonic delta wing interceptor jet aircraft designed and built in the 1950s by Avro Canada. The Arrow was one of the most advanced aircraft of its era, helping to establish Canada as a world leader in scientific research and development. It boasted the world's first computerized flight control and weapon system, and it was faster than any jet in its class. The Arrow would travel nearly twice the speed of sound at an altitude of 53,000 feet. On the 25th of March, 1959, the Arrow first took flight and broke 4 different speed records. Though widely praised for its power and beauty, on February 20th, 1959, before the Arrow could enter military duty, the program was canceled by the Diefenbaker government. This resulted in the loss of at least 25,000 direct and indirect jobs. The day would come to be known as Black Friday in the Canadian aviation industry. And by July 1959, all aircraft had been cut apart with blowtorches, while blueprints, models, designs, and machines used to make the planes were destroyed. Avro and the Arrow were historic examples of Canadian ingenuity, and the Arrow is still considered by many to be one of the greatest technological achievements in Canadian aviation history. Raise the Arrow campaign that was done by John is a project of Canada 150 collaborative effort spearheaded by the OEX Recovery Group, Inc., and it was led by John Brzezinski of Osisko Mining, Inc., in collaboration with the Canadian Aviation and Space Museum, the National Air Force Museum of Canada, the RCAF, and received help from organizations such as the Canadian Conservation Institute, the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Canadian Coast Guard. It is a story that takes place and needs to be told in the Bay of Quinte region. In July of 2017, Raise the Arrow became the largest search of its kind for the Avro Arrow model since an access to information request in the 1980s revealed their existence. The goal of the expedition for John was to find and retrieve these marvelous examples of Canadian advanced technological design that serve as a proud reminder of what we as Canadians have done and what we as Canadians can do. The team used sonar technology to search 100 square kilometers of Lake Ontario off the shore of Point Peter, and Monarch Conservation Point Reserve as it's called now, from 2017 to 2020, where the majority of the free flight test models were originally launched between 54 and 57. A Delta test vehicle was discovered in 2017 and brought to the surface in 2018 and is now on display in Ottawa at the Canadian Aviation and Space Museum. However, the team had set out to find one of the final 5 test models, which were almost identical replicas of the completed Avro Arrows. So their efforts continued, and 3 years later, in September of 2020, a sonar image from the lakebed matched the blueprints for the fuselage of one of the final 5 test models. The discovery brought to a close over 20 years of questions around what had happened to the Avro Arrow free flight test models. And what we've done for the Arrow Trail is developed a partnership project with the Royal Canadian Air Force, the 8-Wing, Osisko Mining, and the Raise the Arrow campaign folks, the National Air Force Museum of Canada, the County Museums, Base 31, and the Regimental Museum here in Belleville, along with the South Shore Joint Initiative, the County of Prince Edward, and we hopefully the Municipality of Quinte West and the City of Belleville, to create the Arrow Trail. And it will become a driving route that celebrates and explores the incredible story of the Avro Arrow, honors the amazing efforts of the team behind the Raise the Arrow campaign, and shares the intertwining stories that weave Canadian folklore and national icons into local legend. There's a brief timeline that's in the description. I won't bother to go all the way through it for you, but just so you can see, we've been working on this since November of 2021. John and Richard Main have been incredibly helpful and supportive along the way, and it's taken us to this point to get everything ready and all the partners on board, and to come and speak to each council involved and hopefully seek their support. So along the trail, we have 5 key partners, and the first of which is going to be the National Air Force Museum of Canada. And there you're going to uncover the facts of the Avro Arrow and learn about the history of the Royal Canadian Air Force. You can then go out to Mariners Park Museum in Prince Edward County, where you'll learn about the incredible efforts of the Raise the Arrow campaign and explore the myth and folklore surrounding the arrow and the local connections to it. You'll be able to delve into some maritime history of PEC to see what other mysteries lie beneath the waves of Lake Ontario. From there, you can go out to Monarch Point Conservation Reserve, which is what Point Peter is now called, with thanks to the South Shore Joint Initiative and Ontario Parks. And there you'll be able to visit the launch site of the free flight test models, or as close to it as we can get. It's still on DND property, but they're very supportive of the project, so we're hopeful. And there will be a Raise the Arrow commemorative parkette sponsored by Osisko Mining, with location support and a walking trail by the South Shore Joint Initiative. From there, you can go to Base 31 and tour the grounds that served as one of 155 British Commonwealth air training planned schools built between 1940 and 45, where pilots trained on the Avro Ansons, and the Avro test models were housed as well. And then you'll go down to Macaulay Heritage Park, where you'll learn what the Raise the Arrow campaign and the Franklin Expedition, another famous Canadian story, have in common. And from there, here to Belleville at the Regimental Museum, well, you'll find out about the Hastings and Prince Edward Regiment, known as the Hasty Peas, who trained out of Camp Picton, and where Farley Mode, another Canadian legend, served. A regiment that fought in every major engagement Canada has been involved in, and won more battle honors than any other Canadian regiment in World War II. And here it just gives you a brief idea of a couple of options for the route. We haven't finalized this. We're hoping when we receive council support for everybody to work with the local marketing boards and reach out to restaurants and accommodation places and have other points of interest on the trail. And then this trail will be able to shift and form around those different partnerships. But this gives you an idea of where you can stop on those 6 points I just mentioned. It's about 150 kilometers square route when it's all said and done. So if you just drive it straight, a little over 2 hours. If you stop at each spot, hopefully it'll take you a full day, or possibly the weekend. You can make an event out of it. Here's a little bit more of the branding that we've worked on already, and this was all done by Avion Design Co. So we've got, these will be available at each site that's telling all the different stories connected to either the Avro Arrow or the Raise the Arrow campaign, and the stories that John Brzezinski uncovered along with Dr. Richard Main. One of which is the Arrow Trail provincial sign route, and that's something that we might come back to speak to council with at another year. Right now, we don't have any financial ask of council. We're just asking for the moral support, basically. But we might be back at a later stage to talk about road signage if the trail's successful after a year. So that gives you an idea of sort of the infographics we're working on. Megan's also done up some tantalizing merch options that we might have along the way that will be available at all of the participating sites, to give you an idea. And this is all of the partners that are involved in this project who have signed on and are already on board. Most importantly, of course, the Royal Canadian Air Force on the 100th anniversary, which will be next year. And we're hoping that we'll be able to launch this in July, along with their main launch of their 100th anniversary. We might have a few things available before that, but July is our target date. And that gives you an idea of the main branding of the Arrow Trail. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for the deputation? Councilor Rolette?
Thank you, Chris. And I note that there was some signage from what appeared to be Tourism Ontario in the on the one slide that you showed with the sign. Is Tourism Ontario on side with promotion on this this notion, or?
Yeah, so we've already received some funding, which is why we're not looking for financial support from RTO9, so that's tourism-based funding. So they are aware of the project, they are supportive of the project. We just haven't decided whether we want to get into road signage, mainly because all of the partners pretty much already have road signage, so they're feeling like the sites are already indicating that. But we're hoping after we have about a year trial of running the trail, whether we actually do need to do provincial road signage. But they are on board for the project, absolutely, yeah.
Councilor Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Chris, thanks for the presentation. Good luck with the trail. Looks very exciting. My comments tonight are just, I knew the test pilot of the Avro Arrow, Jan Zerkowski. He was ran a lodge in my hometown, Barry's Bay, and I got to know him. He passed away early 2000s. I knew the family and I knew his son quite well, very successful business operator. And I know in my hometown they have a replica of the Avro Arrow in downtown in Barry's Bay, and they have a nice park. And he was a very humble man, and so anything I can do to support moving this forward, because he's was the first test pilot and pretty special gentleman. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that National Air Force Museum may be in touch with you, Councillor Kelly, about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, that the deputation by Chris Palmer, Supervisor of Museums and Cultural Services of the County of Prince Edward, Curator of the National Air Force Museum of Canada, on behalf of the partnership behind the Arrow Trail Initiative, provide an introduction to the Arrow Trail and requesting support in the form of communications from the City of Belleville in preparation for the trail's launch in the spring-summer of '24 be received. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. I need now a motion to go into Committee of the Whole, that Council rise and go into Committee of the Whole to hear and consider reports, passing on recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Enright Miller in the chair. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? Carried.
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start 8A reports. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. 8A1, the resolution reads, that the Belleville Downtown Improvement Area, BDIA, Welcoming Streets Program 2024 funding request be received. Can I have a motion? Counselor Chatton, a seconder. Counselor Alsop. Any discussion? Counselor Kelly.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to, we've had a chance to read the information. I'd like to make a one-time pre-budget motion to approve, be approved with funding coming from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund, and that city funding is repaid if alternative funding sources are obtained. So I'd like to make the motion for that.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Counselor Alsop. Any other further discussion on the motion? Counselor Chatton.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I just wanted to mention I did have a fulsome discussion. It was short, but very fulsome with Danielle prior to the meeting tonight. And a lot of what we had gone over were some concerns that I had the last time that we had spoken about the program. And mainly my concern was that there weren't any dollars that were put forward by the BDIA for this program. But that said, it was explained in great detail what the ask was, why it was asked, the way that it was. $140,000 seems like a lot, you know, coming out of the budget for one particular program, but it's so desperately needed in the downtown. So I just wanted to say that I was lending my support to this program.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Counselor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I likewise wanted to lend my support to the motion that Councillor Kelly just made. This is an incredibly important program for the downtown core, and as we look out into the audience, we see a number of different developers, investors, business owners, as well as BIA staff in the audience tonight. And for $140,000, which is a significant amount of money, this is a program that is not only effective and appreciated by the community, it's also an award-winning program that many other municipalities are looking to copy and replicate in their own municipalities. And I don't think that we have too many programs that cost $140,000 that are leading on the front as this one is. Also, a couple months ago at a recent council meeting, we made a declaration that we have a crisis related to homelessness. And the call was put out to the province and to the federal government to do more on that front. But at the same time, I think we have a responsibility to keep programs that are working moving forward and having the effect that they're having in the community. So I'm going to fully support this ask for $140,000. I can also tell you that as chair of the Police Service Board, I signed off on the grant application that has been made to the Office of the Solicitor General. And of course, we haven't got final approval on that funding right now, but I've been speaking with the police chief about it. And he's been in contact with their office, and we have every reason to be confident that that funding will come through. And hopefully when it does, it will offset these costs so that there won't be an impact on the taxpayer. But it's a very valuable program, and I'd like to see it supported today.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Counselor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, through you, just ask the Director of Finance if there's capacity within that reserve account to handle this request.
Through the chair to Councillor Carr, the current balance in the tax rate stabilization reserve fund is about $8 million. There would be sufficient capacity, but I would caveat that we are headed in to operating budget. We do have a number of apologies, sorry, financial constraints. So every allocation of funding is needed. So it's important to be careful utilizing that reserve fund.
Thank you, Director, and I appreciate your prudent cautiousness on this one. And when we do pre-budget approvals, they have a tendency to catch up on budget day when you see those start to add up in their totality. So I think it's just important for council to be mindful, regardless of what the issue is before us. If I could, Madam Chair, just seek clarification. In the staff report, it's suggesting that staff are recommending in the event that council chooses to approve an additional one-time funding. So I want to make sure that it's one-time funding. And then they're also recommending that there be a formal funding agreement. And I was wondering if the mover and seconder would be in agreement to have that wording in there, to have a appropriate funding agreement should they utilize tax dollars.
Thank you. Friendly agreement, Councillor Kelly. Amendment?
Yes.
Counselor Chatton? Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, Counselor Alsop. Aw,
I also agree.
thank you. Thank you. The motion's on the floor then. Mayor Ellis?
Through the chair to the treasurer, would there be any other funding source like MAT tax that this would be able to be paid under rather than the stabilization fund?
Through the chair to Mayor Ellis, the tax rate stabilization reserve fund seemed to be the most appropriate. There would be funding available within the municipal accommodations tax. We tend to try to align that with more tourism-related activities. The parallel could be drawn, so it is a possibility. However, it seemed to be better aligned with tax rate stabilization. That was the.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Kelly, more comment.
Yeah, I through you, Chair, just want to, never really had a chance to comment about it. We know that Belleville Police Service speaks highly of the program. I don't think we turn our back on welcoming streets. It's only been maybe over 3 years, and I was part of the initial committee that worked with welcoming streets. The idea and partnership came from the Guelph, and I see the benefits. I saw it particularly this summer with a very busy downtown with multiple festivals and theme weekends, and the welcoming streets individuals that work for the downtown were there. I spoke to health representatives from Hastings Prince Edward Public Health last week at a meeting, and just about their ongoing work in downtown. And I would summarize that, and I did ask them to send me something on it, but that they feel it's a benefit. It's more people, more eyes, more conversations, and it's just a helpful thing to do. So I hope I get the support. We're not going to turn our back on this, and still a new program. And I was just a question for Mr. Ferguson as well. Could we not, if there's some concern about where the funds are coming from, we're not taking it from the casino, because it is a tourism-based thing. It's they're helping individuals that are downtown that might have some questions that are not from our city. Is there not another area we could get the money?
Through the chair to Councillor Kelly, the Casino Reserve Fund, apologies, the Casino Reserve Fund would potentially be another source of funding as well that could be utilized. There's actually a policy and a allocation of funds to social infrastructure, which would align quite well. However, this program is annually budgeted for our grants program that we run for the social infrastructure grant program, and it would consume the majority of the resources. And so it wasn't identified that that would be something that we'd want to do to reduce that program. So hence the recommendation from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. If there aren't, Councillor Chatton, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wondered if maybe we could take out the language of where the money comes from and just delve into that a little bit deeper, if we can take it from multiple streams as part of the motion, or leave it as is.
Yes, or if staff requires funding direction from council.
Okay.
Could we add that to the motion? I'm sorry. Proceed staff to require the direction for funding.
They do require. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other comment? We have the amended motion on the floor. Can I call the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8A2, the resolution reads that pursuant to report number DEDS 2023-04, City of Belleville Housing Pledge, Building Faster Fund, Council confirms its existing commitment to reach and exceed the housing targets set out by the Province of Ontario. Can I have a motion? Councillor Alsop, seconder. Councillor Chatton, any discussion? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question actually through you to the Director of Engineering Development Services. And we've talked about this before. The province's tracking housing supply progress notes that Belleville's 2023 target was set by the province at 227 housing starts. And as of November 23rd, and that's when it was last updated on the provincial website, the province's online progress tracker has Belleville sitting at only 169 starts, which is 74% towards the 2023 progress. And this is, as we mentioned, or I've mentioned before, based on CMHC data and definition of a housing start, which is basically a foundation being constructed. However, I see, and later in our agenda, we have the November building report, and the permits issued to date are sitting at 324 units. I was wondering if the director could please explain the discrepancy. Does the city have a mechanism to track foundation completions, which would constitute a start? And secondly, what would be the total dwelling starts for 2023, and does this include additional dwelling units?
Thank you. So, although the Ontario government has elected to utilize CMHC data to indicate if a foundation is started, the city itself tracks foundations through foundation inspections. So we have the ability to track housing starts from the definition of what this housing tracker is supposed to do. In terms of the actual housing starts, there's quite a significant difference between what the Ontario government has stated that housing starts have occurred to what actually has occurred within the city during 2023. So as at the end of November, we have 545 dwelling units where construction has started, which is significantly more than the 169 that the website says for the Ontario government. So we'll continue working to try to provide information, updated information to the Ontario government to make sure that the actual housing starts that we have on record will be reflected through the tracking portal. And in terms of additional dwelling units, of those 545 units, we have 215 additional units created through addition or renovation, which is significant but very positive as well.
So if I could, Madam Chair, just in follow-up, so can you explain the discrepancy, and better yet, is the province receptive to submissions of data? Because as it looks now, based on the materials before us, that they go to CMHC, and whatever CMHC has reported, that's what the province is grabbing. Are they receptive to municipalities making a submission? We submit information all the time, the province requires. Are they receptive to hearing what we have in terms of what's actually occurring on the ground?
So maybe I can't answer for the provincial government, but from a staff perspective, we are very open and receptive to providing them accurate data on our housing starts, and we'll continue to provide that information to them. And we're hopeful that they will update their housing tracker to reflect our actual housing starts, which is significant, very much significantly more than what is on the housing tracker.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Madam Chair, just a couple comments on this one. Like, not only if we're on track to meet those totals, do we get the Building Faster Fund, but actually if we exceed those totals, according to the program that was rolled out originally by the province, there's extra money to be had. So at the bare minimum, 826,000, but more. And you know, through capital budget, we just approved $55 million for the Avonlow pumping station, which is going to open up all kinds of growth area. 826, like I said this past week, is a drop in the bucket to the 55 million. So every dollar counts. So here again, this is a demonstration of a very flawed program. What's concerning too is the province has received resolution from the city of Belleville previously, and I know that the big city mayors have spoken out about how this system is tracked. And so far from the provincial government, there has been silence. So they have to know the program is broken. But I don't know if this is a way to keep that funding suppressed by using these totals versus actually using the statistics that are existing on the ground, and to have 545 new units, that's fantastic. This is the data we need to see. This demonstrates again that the city is approving new units, and they're coming online, and we need more of those. So I'm not going to support the pledge, and I'll tell you why. Is number one, I think this is pure symbolism. This is a subtle download from the Ford government promise. They promised 1.5 million homes. They were very quick to discard the affordability task force that they commissioned and didn't look at any of those recommendations, and really haven't put any forward in terms of operational need. They hastily opened up the green belt because they're trying to find anything, anywhere, in hopes to capture these totals. Here in the city of Belleville, we even experienced where they just, on one paragraph submission from landowner, and mentioned 1,500 homes, they got excited and got their pen out and decided to redraw the line in terms of the urban boundary, having no consideration to alert city staff to say, is this feasible? Is this financially possible? Or is this even in your growth plans? There was none of that. So I can see, mark my words, that fast forward to 2026, and it's an election year, not only for the municipalities, but it's an election year for the provincial government. And when the province is going to be held their feet to the fire over this total, you can guarantee that they're going to come back and say, well, we gave strong mayor powers to all these individual mayors, and it was their responsibility to see it done. And then they used the flawed tracking system to see that the totals aren't there. The blame is going to be on all of us by accepting this pledge. The important thing too is that municipalities dependent on the private sector builders, both in terms of input of the applications and the output of the actual builds. So at the end, the city of Belleville and what we do at planning, and then what staff do in terms of all the heavy lifting, is simply follow the approval processes that are laid out in provincial legislation and regulations. They're the facilitator. But if we don't have the input of the application and we don't have the output of the build, we're kind of left holding the bag. And again, the province has really left the private sector to their own devices. And you know, in our municipality here, and this is great, and I'll give kudos out to builders and developers for actually bringing the totals that are before us today. And I think the last thing I want to say is that the minister's letter that is attached to the report, dated November 1st, says very clearly, the submission of this pledge is not a condition for accessing the funding under the Building Faster Fund, which is kind of a little different from what they said before, because before it was, you have to make this commitment, and I guess maybe it was ultimately the mayors have to make the commitment. And then I think this here is just to put it a little bit further to share the blame if we don't meet the total collectively. So again, I know I'm kind of flogging a horse here, but it's just it's a broken framework. It's a broken system in which they're trying to monitor progress. It needs to be cleaned up and actually listen to the input from municipalities that are on the ground, and particularly our professional planning staff that can give the information the province needs. So to me, with the symbolism and the subtle download, it's not something that I really think that I want to hitch my wagon to, so I won't support this. I know there could be other comments. In the meantime, I would also ask for a recorded vote on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Carr, and thank you, Director Ashton, and we appreciate your in-depth report on this, Councillor Carr, and walking us through this. It's great. Any other comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. If I can just get some clarification on the numbers that Director Ashton just shared. The 545 actual housing starts, is that based on our approvals, or is that based on within the definition provided by CMHC, which is foundations in the ground?
So the 545 refers to the foundation inspections that the city building staff have undertaken on the ground. There's a record of those. We track that. and those are tied to the number of dwelling units. However, there are other additional dwelling units that don't require a foundation. Say, for example, if someone had an existing bungalow and wanted to build an additional dwelling unit in the basement, for example, obviously you wouldn't need a foundation, but we track those as well.
And I think that goes to my second question. The additions or renovations, are we talking about secondary accessory dwelling units?
Predominantly, yes. I mean, there might be some infill projects such as Station Street. There was a large apartment building and they originally had commercial on the ground floor and they converted those to residential. I think those are included in that number.
So again, I guess my observation is there are still, I struggle with the pledge, not because I don't believe that we can achieve it, but because of a lack of clarity about what consideration would be. And I think the point, which is 215 additions or renovations that might not require the prescribed foundation in the ground, but nonetheless are housing. So I struggle to be able to support a pledge without the clarity around what definitions are included or not included in this particular total. I mean, based on that, if they're looking at a number that says 169, and we're looking at a number that's 745, 50, 60, 760 units, that's a huge discrepancy. And I think to some of that is what may be defined as what's in and what's out. So at this point, I hesitate to provide support to the pledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millette?
Thank you, and I've spoken out against this from the get-go, and I support entirely my colleague Councillor Carr's concerns on this, and I agree with him wholeheartedly that this is an elaborate shell game, I believe, of on behalf of the provincial government to, as Councillor Carr pointed out, dangle the notion that, you know, there are great riches to be had if we can make these targets, when the targets themselves are not only moving, but they're in a lot of cases unattainable for various reasons outside of our capabilities. So I'm happy to see a recorded vote on this, and I will be adding my voice to the no column. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Through you, Chair, thanks to Councillor Carr too for raising this issue and speaking with a lot of knowledge. I guess the thing was the 169 starts from Mr. Carr's notes to actually 545 from the city. So the website is saying 169, and that's a big discrepancy. My question is, I don't know who might be able to answer this, but if we don't support taking the pledge, are we out the money that will come from the province once we get, we make that quota? I just want to get clarification before I vote on anything that could come back to haunt us.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's a Ministry of Finance program for the province, so I'll let Brandon answer it.
Through the chair to Councillor Kelly, the original, if I heard the question correctly, the original pledge associated with the Building Faster Fund was previously made by council, is my understanding, for by the mayor previously, which identified our eligibility for the Building Faster Fund and the Strong Mayors. So we'd be eligible for that program. And as Director Ashton was mentioning, we're working with the province to identify and realign the target figures to make sure that we'll be able to receive those funds.
So just to follow up, you're saying that it will not have any effect on it. Is that what you're saying?
Through the chair, Councillor Kelly, it's my understanding, yes, the Building Faster Fund commitment was our previous pledge that was made. This commitment is
Okay.
not in line with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Councillor Alsop?
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, I'm going to concur with my fellow councillor, Paul Carr. I think he very eloquently and in great detail went over all the reasons why this is sort of a nonsensical program with a flawed assessment tool, and the fact that we're not being given credit for a number of the starts that we know have occurred and that we have documented, I think is one of the issues with this program. And also, having served with Councillor Carr as he's chair of the Planning Committee, we know that we are absolutely approving units as fast as we can and in the best possible ways, which are reasonable for residents of the city. And I think that that's borne out by the statistics that were presented by Director Ashton tonight as well on the number of housing starts and foundation inspections. So we're doing everything that we can possibly do to get more units built, whether that's new units or units added into existing dwellings. So we're on track in terms of hitting the goals, but if they're not going to measure us correctly and in a fair and really in a reasonable way based on the data that we have on the ground, I don't see any sense in signing on to a pledge that I think will be in the future used as a stick should the province not get to their ultimate goal when we've actually been exceeding the pace that they've requested from us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Councillor Carr. More comments?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to provide firm clarity on my colleague's question. So attached to the report is a letter from Minister Calandra, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The second last paragraph, last sentence says, submission of this pledge is not a condition for accessing funding under the Building Faster Fund. And if you'll note right off the top, and this is probably the most awkward part, is because the government, provincial government, has put mayors in a tough position where they pretty much feel obligated to sign off, and I know that Mayor Ellis has provided that commitment, and it was the mayor's commitment alone that opens up the Building Faster Fund. This here is kind of like doubling down now, and but no, it's very clear in here from the minister that this does not jeopardize anything.
Thank you, Councillor Carr, for that clarification. And Mayor Ellis?
It's in the first of that paragraph, it says, in addition, by committing to your municipality's housing target, this is a key step for the city of Belleville to be eligible for the Building Faster Fund. And then it kind of contradicts it in the next sentence. So it kind of scares me to say, what does that whole paragraph mean? And I don't know if that's a question to the treasurer in the sense of it contradicts each other the way I'm reading it. Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
Through the chair to Mayor Ellis, I would concur with the clarity of the letter does intermingle some of the pledge commitments. The Building Faster Fund does identify once the municipalities through their heads of council have pledged to achieve their targets, they will have access to the Building Faster Fund. My only caution or caveat is that we don't have transfer payment agreements. We don't have any firm details on the actual program. Given the information that's available, that would be the case, that it's the approval through their heads of council for the pledge achieved. But again, having no formal documentation or agreement from the province, I don't want to speculate, any changes or differences as to what that might be. But as far as the information that's available, it is the pledge that was previously made that allows us access to the Building Faster Fund.
Thank you. That's Councillor Chatton.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm really hesitant on this because of the ambiguity of the letter. I think we need more clarity before we make a vote that might end up bumping us out of the potential for this level of funding. I'm very cautious about this. It would be terrible if we all voted not in favor and it was to our detriment as a city. So I would like to suggest tabling this until somebody can get in touch with the province and get better clarity surrounding this letter and what in writing we are not going to be held accountable for and what we could be held accountable for.
Thank you. Director Ashton, do you have something to add to this?
Okay, yeah, just I think the deadline for us to respond to the province or to make this is December 15th. So
Correct, I was just told December 15th is our deadline, so I guess we have to, Counselor Carr.
Thank you. Well, we might as well just keep rolling on this one. I think it's just to emphasize what the Director of Finance has said. So, and originally, and how I read the program, was the mayors had to commit. And in exchange for that commitment, you would have access to the Building Faster Fund, and you would get strong mayor powers. And then Mayor Ellis has written a letter to the minister the end of October. And so as a result, the minister is now writing back on November 1st to the mayor and indicating that he's thanking you or him for that particular commitment. And then, as Mayor Ellis points out, in addition, by committing to your municipality's housing target, this is a key step to be eligible. So it's black and white, so there's the commitment, and as a result, you have eligibility for that Building Faster Fund. And then we also hope and expect that municipalities will submit a council-approved pledge, if they have not already done so, outlining the steps they wish to take to achieve. Submission of this pledge is not a condition for accessing funding under the Building Faster Fund. So I think it's important to read it in its totality and not pick the pieces out, because there it is, black and white. And I think we're on a pretty good standing and having evidence should it be otherwise.
Thank you, Councillor Chatton.
Thank you. That answers what I was concerned about for the most part. I did go through the letters, and quite honestly, I thought it was back and forth as well. So thank you. I can stand behind not sending in a pledge and a commitment. It feels like a lot for one thing. So
Thank you very much, everybody. Very thoughtful and good discussion. So with that in mind, we'll have a recorded vote on the motion. Councillor Kelly?
I will not support the pledge.
Sorry. Okay.
Counselor Carr?
No.
Counselor Chatton?
no.
Counselor Enright Miller?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Millet?
No.
Counselor Alsop?
No.
Counselor Brown?
No.
Mayor Ellis?
Yes.
Motion.
Thank you, everyone. 8A3, resolution reads that council approve the recommendation of the Finance Committee as outlined in the Manager Finance Deputy Treasurer Report number DDF 2023-02, and that the 2024 operating budget guidelines be approved. Can I have a motion? Councillor Alsop, a seconder. Councillor Kelly, any discussion on the motion? If not, can I call for the vote? All in favor? Thank you. Carried. 8A4, the resolution reads that pursuant to report number DDF 2023-01, the proposed rates of water and wastewater be included in the consolidated rates and fees bylaw for council consideration. Can I have a motion? Councillor Brown, a seconder. Councillor Carr, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8A5, the resolution reads pursuant to report number DF 2023-2022, consolidated fees and charges bylaw, a bylaw to establish fees and charges be prepared for council's consideration. Can I have a motion to approve? Councillor Alsop, a seconder. Councillor Kelly, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8A6, the resolution reads that in accordance...
Moved as read, or as written.
Thank you. Motion. Seconder. Councillor Alsop, all in favor? Thank you. 8A7, the resolution reads that Manager of Physician Recruitment and Retention Report, number MPRR 2023-08 be received, and further that a bylaw to approve and authorize an agreement with Sarah Shaw to provide medical services as a nurse practitioner in the City of Belleville under the current recruitment policy be prepared for council's consideration. Can I have a motion to approve? Councillor Kelly, seconder. Councillor Millet, any discussion? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I see that Karen Post is here tonight, and we're talking about doctor recruitment and the Nurse Practitioners Clinic. I had a conversation, just a side note, today with Dr. Karen Clayton-Babbs, who is pretty excited over at the Nurse Practitioners Clinic to welcome Sarah early in the new year. And Nurse Practitioner Shaw will have 800 patients she'll take on. So this is good news, and there'll be an addition, that'll make the total now to 6 nurse practitioners at the Belleville Clinic. So this is good stuff. Can I ask Karen Post a question now? Karen, doctor recruitment, I know you're working hard at it. You told me before the meeting that in years gone by, there would be anywhere from 15 to 20 municipalities at these doctor recruitment conferences. Now it's anywhere from 70 to 100. Can you kind of give us the lay of the land, how the recruitment is coming along, and just how challenging it is? Can you update us on that?
Of course, through the chair to Councillor Kelly. Yeah, the landscape has changed. Every community is short family physicians. The physician shortage is clear across Canada. Every community is doing their best to attract as many physicians and nurse practitioners as they can to the community. And so I think council's timing was very good in terms of making this a permanent position for the city, because we really do need to be at every job fair, at every conference, at every anywhere there's an opportunity to talk to residents and physicians about the opportunities that Belleville presents. So these nurse practitioners, certainly a welcome addition to the community, and they will take, between the 2 that have been approved for the clinic, they'll take almost 1,000 patients.
And just to follow up, if I can, Chair. So with the nurse practitioners and the doctors, I mean, I hear this, I can't speak for everybody here, but I hear it lots. Those are conversation starters when we meet the citizens of Belleville. Is I can't get a doctor, or you know, I'm driving to Barrie. I've been living in Belleville for 3 years. I'm still driving to Barrie because they didn't give up my family doctor. That's real stuff. That's reality for these families, what they're dealing with. What's the difference of coming to Belleville than, say, another municipality in Ontario? Is the money enough now at 150? It sounds like a lot of money over 6 years, but is the money, does that entice then he or she to sign with us?
Through the chair to Councillor Kelly, it certainly makes a difference. A lot of communities have incentives, and I can tell you that Belleville's incentive is one of the better incentives. So I think Council's doing the right thing with the 150,000. In some cases, for really remote communities, the community will have an incentive, and the province will kick in some additional funding. So once in a while, Hastings County, I believe, just signed a physician who got their 150,000, but then also got a provincial incentive because they were going to be practicing in an area in North Hastings. So yes, the incentive makes a difference. There's no doubt about it. There are more and more incentives out there, but ours is very competitive. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions? Councillor Carr?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Post is here, and it's great to see this recruitment here. What do you see the province doing, just in terms of, because again, we're talking healthcare around the municipal council table, and the more we talk about it, the more it'll be our responsibility. And you know, going back to look at the survey that was done to the community, everybody's asking for a family doctor, and all we can do is recruit the limited resource out there. What do you see, because you're out in the schools and the medical schools, and obviously have connections with the provincial government, what do you see the province doing in terms of increasing spaces for physicians, or allowing foreign trained physicians to be approved to work here, and other things, nurse practitioners, to actually provide everybody in the province of Ontario with a primary care provider?
Through the chair to Councillor Carr, it's a very simple answer, and the answer is not nearly enough. There are, I have probably 60 international medical graduates that I'm working with who should be fully qualified to practice medicine in Ontario, but they can't get a residency position. They can't get through the exams. So there's a huge untapped potential of physicians who are already in the province that can't get that can't get licensed here. There are not nearly enough residency positions for even Ontarians who've had to go abroad to get their medical education. Many of them will have to come back and complete a residency, but there are no residencies for them. There was an article in the Globe and Mail that talked with one Canadian who had applied 6 times. So for 6 years, he's been waiting to get into a residency program and can't. And, you know, there's somebody who's very well educated. The skills they've learned is comparable with what Ontario would provide. So, yeah, the province needs to open up more residency positions. They need to open up more medical school positions. They need to offer more funded positions for nurse practitioners. If there were more funded positions, there's no doubt we would have more nurses going to get the nurse practitioner certification. And just those 3 things could significantly change the landscape of healthcare in Ontario.
So what I'm hearing essentially is with the recruitment program we have, we're recruiting a very scarce resource and competing in difficult times with other municipalities and other jurisdictions. That's fair to say?
That's very fair to say. I do look forward to the day when you no longer need a physician recruiter. It's not something the community should be doing, but it's something it's a role we have to have. It's a job we have to do because there simply aren't enough physicians out there for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Post. Any other discussion? Call for the motion. All in favor? Thank you, carried. 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. I'll just go around the table. Councillor Kelly?
I wanted to pull 8C2. Oh, sorry, okay, no, at that point, no, nothing there. Mine's on the next chapter.
Okay. Councillor Millet?
Yes, I would request 8B2, please.
2. Councillor Chatton?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown?
No, thank you.
Councillor Alsop?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carr?
No, thank you.
Mayor Ellis?
No, thank you.
Then a motion to approve consent items with the exclusion of 8B2. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried. 8B2. 8B. That a bylaw to amend, the resolution, 8B2, there we go. That the General Manager of Transportation and Operations Services Report Number GMTOS 2023-32 Annual Report 2023 Use of Animal Traps be received as information. Councillor Millet? Seconder, Councillor Alsop? Thank you. Councillor Millet?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Chair of the Green Task Force, this matter, a related matter to this, I would say, came before us some months ago, and we heard a delegation from the Quinnifield Naturalists who put an excellent proposal before us, fact-based plan for coexistence with beavers. And as some of you may recall, when we approved the in September 2019, the Humane Wildlife Conflict Policy, Trapping of Nuisance Animals Policy, there was some uproar over it, and rightly so. I mean, you know, no one wants to support any policy that uses elimination of any natural wildlife animal without it being a last resort. We heard, as I mentioned, the detailed presentation from representatives from the Quinnifield Naturalists, and the sum of their presentation was to eliminate from our Humane Wildlife Conflict Policy any reference going forward to trapping of nuisance animals altogether. We heard a very detailed report from Mr. Reed, Joe Reed, Director General Manager, Transportation and Operations Services, as to why that quote-unquote item, very important item out of their toolbox should not be removed. And it's not one that Mr. Reed takes lightly, and I'll ask him in a moment to speak on that. But we felt after some great deliberation that while the report lists that in 2023, we've had to remove 9 beavers, trap them, and humanely dispatch of these 9 animals. It's not something that the department takes lightly, but one of the recommendations that we did come out of the Green Task Force and on this matter, and I thank Mr. Reed for taking up the Quinnifield Naturalists on this recommendation, is that staff will be undertaking training in 2024 with the Beaver Corps Professional Training Program from the Beaver Institute. Now, if some of you may or may not recall, we had a representative in the past, and there are devices known as beaver deceivers. Quite simply, they're contraptions that we place in areas where beavers are damming, and as the name implies, it fools the beaver into thinking that it doesn't need to keep building dams. But what it does is that it removes the water from behind a dammed up area. We will train employees to further work in that regard. We have, I believe, Mr. Reed can correct me, 2 beaver deceivers in place right now. One working quite well out, I believe, in Thurlow Ward. The other one with mixed results, but we support Mr. Reed and his department in these efforts. Unfortunately, for the folks at Quinnifield Naturalists, we can't support their request to remove trapping from our policy. We just feel that it would just tie the hands of our staff. We're not prepared to do that. We are open to further suggestions on how to improve coexistence, but at this time, with our commitment to undertake extra training with staff, I'm going to support wholeheartedly this report from Mr. Reed, and if he cares to make any comments on it, I'll leave that up to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millett. Mr. Reed, would you like to make any comments further?
Yeah, thanks, and through the chair to Councillor Millett, our staff do make every effort possible to, safeguard the coexistence within our community. Our staff, we do have a lot of efforts around, putting fencing around trees and so forth, and allowing them to do their thing. And again, the Beaver Corps professional training was actually something that we'd worked with just prior to COVID on having our staff take through in partnership with the Fur Bearers of Canada. So we're going to, now that we're through some of the pandemic and now we're starting to ease up on some of the initiatives we've done, we felt it's prudent that we continue our knowledge and we can implement it here in Belleville.
Thank you, Manager Reed. Any other comments? I call for the motion. All in favor? Carried, thank you. 8C, council information matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. We'll just go around the table. Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to pull 8C to B.
Thank you. Councillor Millett?
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown?
No, thank you.
Councillor Alsop?
No, thank you.
Councillor Carr?
82CA, please.
82CA. Mayor Ellis?
The same as Councillor Carr, so I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a motion with the exception of 82CB and 82CA. Can I have a motion? Councillor Chatton, seconder. Councillor Alsop, all in favor? Thank you. So 82CB, Support for November 14th, 2023 resolution from the municipality of Tweed to lobby the federal and provincial governments to reestablish partnership funding agreements with small municipalities for repair, maintenance, and replacement of existing infrastructure. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Kelly, seconder. Councillor Millet. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, when we got our information for the meeting, I read this letter and was thinking of Mayor Don DeGenova and Councillor Jim Fleeler and Councillor Peter Valicat and Tweed put this through recently in a November meeting, and they're asking for more funds from the federal and provincial governments, and we've heard the conversations here tonight about more funding from the province and the feds, so I'm hoping the City of Belleville will support this letter and get that message sent to Conservative MPs and MPPs in our area, and that we need more funding. So I'm just hoping that we can send that support to them.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Just an observation in the way that the resolution from the municipality of Tweed has been written. It's to reestablish partnership funding agreements with small municipalities. And so I'm unclear as to what small actually indicates. Are we a small municipality at 57,000? So my only hesitation on this one was the fact that their motion actually clarified it as small municipalities only.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. As far as the wording, the small municipalities, I saw that, but these Tweeds are neighbors. We know people, and I know people in Tweed that have season tickets for the Belleville Senators. I actually saw some people in Tweed at the Quinte Mall the other day. So they support our community. We're the hub for Tweed, and this conversation is going to continue at the conference Roma in January. So I'm backing them 100%. We've done it for other small municipalities when they've raised issues with support, and Tweed's like 30 minutes out, and we know how valuable they are, their residents, to the City of Belleville. So I'm hoping we get the support.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Any other comments? And I'll call for the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8C2A, the motion reads, support for November 7th, 2023 resolution from the municipality of Wawa calling upon the Government of Canada to support Bill C-310 and enact amendments to subsection 118.06 subsection 2 and 118.07 subsection 2 of the Income Tax Act in order to increase the amount of the tax credits for volunteer firefighters and search and rescue volunteer services from $3,000 to $10,000. And Councillor Carr motioned that, and a seconder, Mayor Ellis. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and you know, this caught my eye. Obviously, we have a very robust volunteer component to our fire service, and you know, when they leave their regular job and go out and perform rescue duties and fire suppression duties and even medical calls, you know, they need all the assistance they can have, and certainly providing the federal government providing some tax credit to make it a little bit more affordable, if you will, so that they can continue to provide true volunteer services. I think it's something we should be advocating for.
Thank you. Any further comment? And call for the motion. All in favor? Carried. 8D, rise and report. I'll need a motion to rise and report. Councillor Carr, seconded. Councillor Alsop, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Reading of bylaws, the following, the first and second reading of bylaws, members may debate any bylaw under consideration. I need a motion for bylaw 2023-209, 210, 211, 212, 213, and 214. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Second reading and discussion of 23-209, 210, 211, 12, 213, and 214. Moved by Councillor Alsop and Councillor Millet. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. And third and final bylaw reading of bylaw 2023-209, 210, 211, 212, 213 and 214. Moved by Counselor Chatton, seconded by Counselor Wright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Any new business? Counselor Millet.
Thank you, Worship, and colleagues. I rise on an important matter today that affects every corner of this community, and that is the epidemic of intimate partner or domestic violence. Recently, Leah Morgan, Executive Director of Victim Services for Hastings, Prince Edward, and Lennox and Addington, and representing the Quinte Coordinating Committee Against Violence, told Hastings County Council that all of the region's police services are reporting increasing numbers of assaults against women and intimate partner violence. In Ms. Morgan's words, quote, rates of domestic violence per 100,000 population in Belleville and Quinte West is 52% higher than in Kingston and almost 47% higher than the average for the province. Ms. Morgan told County Council that Victim Services had helped 638 victims of intimate partner violence in the 3 counties in the past year. In the same period, Three Oaks Foundation provided shelter and counseling to 92 women and 39 children. It's important to note that the shelters were operating at half capacity due to the pandemic restrictions being in effect. Since January of this year in Ontario, there have already been 46 confirmed femicides, as reported by the Ontario Association of Interval and Transition Houses. Just recently, Hastings County joined many other communities in our area and across the province in making the epidemic declaration. It's time Belleville stood up and was counted among that number. The province, in ignoring the recommendations of domestic violence advocates and even a coroner's inquest into the horrific case of femicide in the village of Wilno in 2015, refuses to take the matter seriously. Until it does, more women will continue to fall victim to intimate partner violence in our community. Councillor colleagues, I call on all of us to join not only Hastings County, but more than 30 other communities in Ontario in declaring this epidemic of violence towards women, partners in our community, with an aim to underscoring the urgency of the situation to our provincial government. And I have a motion, and the motion reads that Belleville City Council declare intimate partner violence, commonly known as domestic violence, an epidemic in the community, and urge our provincial representatives, MPPs Todd Smith and Rick Barise, to heed the action items recommended by the coroner's inquest into the 2015 murders of 3 women in the Upper Ottawa Valley that were all linked to intimate partner violence, and that the province make available the resources and framework to help combat this growing epidemic. If I can get a
Seconded by Counselor Chatton. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Motions. Notice of motions. Counselor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move at the next regular meeting of council that bylaw 2019-183 being a bylaw to impose water and sanitary sewer connection charges to recover the capital cost of installing water and or sanitary sewer works in the urban service area be amended by amending the connection charges imposed section to read that the owner of a pre-existing constructed residence shall have an indeterminate period of time from the date of the notice to construct and install at the owner's expense a private service connection to connect to the waterworks and or sanitary sewer works, and that the wording shall become mandatory be removed as it pertains to pre-existing constructed residence, and that a provision be added which requires any new construction on an existing lot shall require an immediate connection to waterworks and or sanitary sewer works.
Okay, Counselor Brown. Okay, that's the notice of motion for next meeting then, Counselor Carr? Correct. Okay, announce. I have, Counselor Carr, do you have your hand up? Announcements, okay.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, a couple of announcements. Last Thursday was open house at Grace Inn Shelter. I saw Councillor Chris Millette there when I was there, and what a great turnout. Just want to give a thank you note to Rob Crisp, who is the Executive Director, Ashley Vader, who's the Director of Operations. Had great conversations with both Rob and Ashley and their team. Amazing turnout. The city had over 300 people in the afternoon to come and see what's going on at the 21-bed Grace Inn Shelter. Well done. And it's a jewel in our city. Also, too, I just wanted to mention just an update. Hastings Prince Edward Public Health conversation has started now from the province is directing public health to build bigger public health, and for us here in Hastings, the province is suggesting, it's a volunteer suggestion from the province, that we work with 5 other municipalities. In our particular case, it would be Kingston, Leeds, Grenville, Cornwall area, Renfrew County, and that's what they're hoping. And I was asked to be on a committee of 4, 2 doctors, and Jan O'Neill, the mayor of Marmora, and those conversations are going to start tomorrow. Just wanted to update everybody on that Hastings Prince Edward Public Health has a strong relationship with Kingston and Leeds Grenville, but Cornwall and Renfrew County are in that conversation as well. So the province is moving forward on that. We've been told that it's volunteering, working together, moving forward. I'll leave it at that. So just want to give people an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brown?
Thank you. Just as a follow-up from our last meeting, Councillor Carr and I hosted a Ward 2 Town Hall on November 29th. It was, despite a weather forecast that might have been a little bit of a deterrent, it was a full house. Some good feedback in terms of the budget. We had good discussion, sometimes a little bit heated, but nonetheless, it was good discussion that will help inform some of the decisions we need to make as Transportation Committee going forward. But all in all, I think it was very well received, as I say, from a full house. And in fact, it was actually suggested by the residents that attended that they saw enough value out of Councillor Carr has traditionally done it 2 times a year. It's actually been suggested that quarterly would be even better. So something that Councillor Carr and I will have to discuss going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any other announcements? I have one. As this is the last council meeting of the year, I would like to take this moment to wish everyone a happy holiday season and invite all to help bring in the new year at our New Year's Levy. It is taking place on January 1st at the Quinte Sports Center and Wellness Center from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. I hope to see you all there. With that, I need a moment, resolution passed that the bylaw number 2023, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on December 11th, 23, be read a first, second, third time, and finally passed this 11th day of December 23. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Alsop, all in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Millette, all in favor? Carried.